Now, last night, the Sydney Harbour Bridge was lit up in green and gold to celebrate the success of the social media ban. I mean, that is a bit over the top, in my opinion. It might have been a little premature as well. Well, joining me now to discuss is former Labor State Secretary Cameron Milner. Cameron, good to see you. Now, clearly there are a lot of teenagers getting around this, and one of my friends who's a mum of a teenager told me today that actually, and maybe I shouldn't be giving away tips, I don't know how many teenagers are watching this show, under 16s anyway, but apparently if they sign out of TikTok, they can still access the app. So there are many loopholes like this.
Oh, look, I think there are, Shari, and that's the problem. I mean, the problem with the Albanese government fundamentally is they're all announcement and no action. And that's what I fear about this. What I'm going to say, though, is News Limited should be congratulated. I mean, they ran a fantastic campaign to raise awareness and actually pressure the government to real action. I mean, saving our kids from the sewer of social media is such a great thing. So I congratulate News Limited for that fully. But unfortunately, it's gone through the hands of the Albanese government. And as you say, I mean, it's about as secure as a string bag or a sieve, unfortunately. And the kids are probably going to work out a way to get around Albanese. And that's a real worry because they shouldn't be getting access to this stuff.
Like I said last night, it's probably a transition period where the teenagers who are already on it and they use it to communicate with their friends. Snapchat apparently is how teens talk to each other, message each other. So I think it'll be very difficult for those teens to suddenly be off social media. But, you know, the kids who are now 13 and 12, even 14, hopefully it'll be one of those things that takes a couple of years to change. And then they'll just be told, this is the law, it's banned, you can't go on social media. Do you think that's how it'll be?
Oh, exactly, Shari. And look, you know, big tech is like big tobacco. They want the kids young and get them hooked early. And that's what social media was doing to 11 and 12-year-olds and children even as young as 9. I mean, it's sickening what they were trying to do in terms of targeting young people with their algorithms and trying to get them in before they had enough consciousness to actually make decisions of their own, informed decisions, as 16, 17, 18-year-olds can do. So no, I think hopefully the ban will take a real effect for younger people. Those in transition might get withdrawal symptoms, but hopefully they see the benefit as well. But unfortunately, as we said, look, lots of kids are going to get around this because it's an Albanese plan rather than a real plan.
Well, the Prime Minister did an interview with Kieran Gilbert here on Sky this morning. Kieran Gilbert actually asked him about anti-Semitism, and unsurprisingly, Albanese couldn't just answer about anti-Semitism. Have a look.
There's been fears about the issue of social cohesion and the anti-Semitism that's erupted in the last few years. Is this a big focus for you heading into 2026?
People who live side by side, whether they be Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist or of no faith, is really important. It lifts us up as a nation. Now we need to cherish that. There has been a rise in anti-Semitism. We need to make sure that we address those issues, and my government will continue to do that. We need to continue to address Islamophobia wherever we see it, wherever we see any discrimination against any group, and particularly a targeting of groups.
I mean, Cameron, he can't answer properly. He hasn't implemented Gillian Siegel's report. He hasn't interviewed our recommendations from our summit.
No, look, that's right. And it's an abject failure of leadership on Albanese's part when it comes to anti-Semitism. And to compare it to Islamophobia, well, I'm sorry, thank goodness, but mosques aren't being firebombed, people's houses aren't being graffitied and their cars firebombed, and it's not the harassment we're seeing of Jewish students at schools amongst Muslim students. That's a good thing. But let's face up to it. We're actually racked by anti-Semitism in our country. And when the Jewish community asked for leadership, they got a jelly back, an absolute jelly back in Albanese. When the Abbas synagogue was still smouldering, he stayed at Cottesloe and played tennis for 2 hours with a lobbyist. That's what he thought the Prime Minister of Australia should do. This guy has failed, I think, the Jewish community and the rest of us as well, who are all concerned about anti-Semitism. And as I say, an absolute abject failure of leadership from Albanese on anti-Semitism.
Yeah, it has. He's been terrible, and he can't even give an answer without mentioning Islamophobia either. New research today from the E61 Institute says that universal-style payments have increased from 1.4% to 3.7% of GDP in the past 2 decades. And then Cameron means-tested income support cash payments like Job Seeker and the family tax benefit have actually fallen from 7.8% to 5.3% of GDP. So what does this say to you about how as a nation, our politicians as well have become addicted to this welfare state, this obsession with handouts.
Well, it's a spray it everywhere movement, isn't it? I mean, Labor used to be about means testing. Labor used to be about helping, people who are struggling, people who are working poor to get a better life. But no, it's like millionaires get discounts on their houses now, thanks to Albanese. I mean, so this is lazy policy, lazy social policy, lazy economic policy from Labor. And it's a spray and pray approach to buy as many votes as possible. So you're right. I mean, the difficulty is we should be a Labor government with real Labor policies targeting working people and struggling people in our community. What got under Albanese is cash and confetti being thrown everywhere.
Look, I'm still on air next week, and I hope you'll still be here to join me for one more week.
Will be, yes.
But just a couple of quick fire questions. Do you think Susan Lee will survive another year? Just a quick answer.
Oh, look, I think she'll struggle, genuinely struggle.
The Victorian state election next year, November, I think.
Any
prediction?
Look, it's going to be really tight. I mean, Jess Wilson's challenge is 16 seats. It's a big ask, even with the polls going her way.
Do you think Jacinta Allen might hold on?
I do, actually. I think she's actually an outside chance of holding on, absolutely.
That's a worry. And inflation, do you think we're going to see rate hikes as well next year?
Well, I think that's the great fear. I mean, rising unemployment, rising inflation and interest rates going up. It could be a toxic trifecta for Labor.
Right, Cameron Milner, thank you as always for your time.